our crazy fall time weather keeps going from cloudy days to sunny days to cloudy days again and rain. Today is one of those days that the clouds are out, and I was just so hoping that I could make it before the next rain came so that I could, do my little thing out here. So if I end up inside, you'll know why. But I always like to take advantage of all the outside days that I can. I figure winter's going to be here soon enough and I'll be inside. I chose a cup of tea because it's almost noon here, and I've already had my 2 cups of coffee for the day, so I figure, okay, I better switch to some herbal tea and sip on that while I chat with you. I've really been loving all these fall days. They're just like a perfect mix of weather and temperatures. It's getting cool at night, and it really gets me in the mood to do some baking. And of course, what's more appropriate for baking this time of year than pumpkin? Yay! I've been on a kick to do a few breakfast type foods and just have them, ahead of time. And one of those things I decided I wanted to make was granola. And so I was thinking, okay, there has to be a way that we can pair these 2 things together, pumpkin and granola. And sure enough, I figured out how to make some pumpkin granola. I looked at a few recipes and then kind of just came up with my own. I almost called it quits, and then the sun came out. Anyway, okay, granola, that's where we were. Yes, so I made this pumpkin granola, and I have to say it was really good. I think it would have been better if it had some nuts in it, but I didn't have any nuts. I've used them up, so I guess I need to put that on my grocery list. But I just rolled with what I had. I put cranberries in it and some coconut in it, and in the end, my opinion was that it didn't necessarily scream pumpkin to me when I tasted it. You could taste the spices in a little bit. My oldest granddaughter said she definitely could taste pumpkin. So if you try it, you be the judge. And maybe next time I'll experiment with maybe a little bit more pumpkin. I don't know. Or if you had some pumpkin flavoring or something, you could add a drop or 2 of that. Maybe that would do it. I don't know. But we've been enjoying it, so it works. So speaking of pumpkin baking, this time of year, of course, a lot of the recipes that you find that have pumpkin in them require pumpkin pie spice. It's not something that I have typically bought because I already have cinnamon and nutmeg and ginger and cloves and all that already in my pantry. So every year I will make up a batch of this pumpkin spice mix, and I will just let this sit on the screen for a few seconds so you can take a screenshot of it. I also have it posted below. But it's super simple to mix together, and then every recipe that calls for pumpkin pie spice, you're ready to go. So I use it a lot during this time of year if I do a lot of holiday type baking. After I finished up with the pumpkin granola, I decided to make some pumpkin apple muffins. Oh gosh, these turned out so delicious. And what really frustrated me is when I sat back down to do all my editing and pull out all my clips, I realized that I showed you all the mixing of the dry ingredients, and of course at the beginning grating the apple, and I guess I must have not realized I hadn't turned on my camera or something, but I don't have the liquid ingredients being mixed and then mixing them all together. But I know that you guys have made muffins many times in your life, and so you can handle it, because I really wanted to share these because I'm telling you, these muffins were absolutely amazing. I think right now I have 1 left, and I just made them a few days ago. Of course, I gave them to my grandkids too. I shared with them some of the muffins and the granola, and they had a nice morning snack out on the deck enjoying that. I absolutely love winter squash, whether it's butternut or acorn squashes or any of them, delicata squashes, those are really good. But one of the most difficult things with a squash is cutting through them and peeling them. You know, even if you cut them in half and then bake them, of course the peels come off really easy. But I have a little trick to show you in today's Homemaker's Journal, and that is the most simple way to peel a squash. It works best for smooth-sided squash like a butternut, so that's what you're going to see me doing. The first thing that you do is poke a lot of holes in it, and I am using kind of a meat fork. You could use a knife, it doesn't really matter. I just found this works really well. So I poke a whole bunch of holes all over it. I remove both ends the best I can, and my microwave's kind of small, so I just laid it on a plate. If you can stand it up, that works too. But I put it in my microwave, and I microwaved it for about 4 minutes. Then I pull it out, and using just a regular potato peeler, I just peel it off. And so simple. It takes just a matter of less than a minute to get an entire squash all peeled. The other great thing about this is it softens up the squash enough that it makes it super easy to cut through, and even cleaning out all the seeds in membranes, which sometimes can be a job. They're kind of, you want to stick and stay in there, and they just kind of scoop right out. So I highly recommend it. Like I said, if you have a squash that is like an acorn squash or something where the sides are more rigid, it might not work as well. I haven't actually tried it with that, but who knows? I'd be willing to at least give it a try, see if I could make progress, but it definitely works on smooth-sided squash. And it seems like this episode of Homemaker's Journal has a lot of me in the kitchen. Well, because it's that time of year. Do any of you just end up in the kitchen more as these cool days are here and enjoying the baking and the cooking? So the same day that I made the granola and the muffins, I wanted to figure out what would be something kind of quick and easy for dinner, and I decided to go with soup. The first thing I always do when I decide to make soup is I open up my refrigerator and I just start pulling out bits and pieces of things that I have in there. So I had a rotisserie chicken. We had already eaten chicken 2 nights, and so I had a little bit of it left, not a huge amount. I also had some onion that was cut into, a pepper that was cut into and needed to be used up. I had some rice that was from a couple nights ago, and that was all I had left, was that little bit of rice, and I had about a half of a baked potato. I also had a couple very sad looking leaves of kale, so I thought, perfect, I know I can make this into soup. So I pulled out my Instant Pot and I threw my rotisserie chicken into the Instant Pot. I added water and some salt, and I let that cook for about an hour. And while that was cooking, I chopped up my onions and my peppers, and then I also chopped up my potato and put that into a bowl, and then eventually I added my rice to that and my kale. I chopped up my kale and I put that in the bowl, and I knew that I would be adding that later on, so I just set that aside. In my soup pot, I heated up some oil and threw in onions and my peppers, and yes, that's right, I had some mushrooms that needed to be used up too, so I threw those in there that I had sliced up, and I just cooked those until they were super soft, and then just set that aside until my chicken had finished. A few days ago, I made a video called How to Make Soup Without a Recipe, so if you didn't see that, you might want to check for it, and I'll put it up here, because I go into a lot of detail in that video of how to take what you have on hand and turn it into a delicious soup. After my Instant Pot went off and my chicken broth was done, I separated the chicken meat and bones from the broth, and I went ahead and added about 5 or 6 cups to my pot with the onions and the mushrooms and the peppers. I brought that to a boil and then added in my potato, my rice, and my kale, and I just let that simmer for a little bit while I worked on getting the meat off the bone, just to kind of soften everything up and make sure the kale got cooked through. And as soon as I had the meat off the bone, I added that into the soup and stirred it. I added a little bit of seasoning, some salt and garlic to taste, and that was it. And it was a super simple soup, but oh gosh, that really hit the spot that night. And of course I served that with a couple pumpkin muffins as well. It always feels good to take advantage of what you have in the refrigerator and to be a good steward of the food that you have. I'm one of those people that just dislike food waste a lot, and you know, it happens to all of us, but but I try. I really work hard to take advantage of every little bit that I have that can be used in another meal or in another form to create something brand new and not waste the food. Okay guys, I hope that you have all had a blessed week and that you're keeping busy and that you're enjoying all this wonderful fall weather, unless fall hasn't hit your area yet. But if you are, make sure you let me know that too, if you're having a great time with this fall season. But I think that wraps up this chapter episode of Homemakers Journal, and I've had a lot of good response, not just in hits and things like that, but comments and people enjoying these Homemakers Journals. So my goal is to try to get one out every week, but sometimes I just don't have the time. They take a little more time to edit, but I do my best. And I enjoy making them a lot. So hopefully, eventually, I'll get to the point where I can get them out weekly. That's my goal, at least. Okay, I will see you guys all in my next video. Bye-bye.